What's happening with the MLB umpires? Are the players and managers complaining more than ever about the strike zone? Or this is a consequence of the social media impact? Let's talk about it right now at the Beatwriter.
This is the Beatwriter, the podcast with Marcos Grunfeld. Watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/the Beatwriter, or listen to us on Spotify or any podcast player from Google to Apple Podcasts.
For me, it's an honor to talk today with former MLB umpire Dale Scott to talk about the MLB umpire situation right now in Major League Baseball. A few weeks ago, we watched the episode between Kyle Schwarber and Angel Hernandez, and also we watched the episode between Dan Bellino and Madison Bumgarner. And there is a lot of talking in the social media, Mr. Scott, about the umpire's job right now in Major League Baseball. There is also, it's very probable that in Major League Baseball anytime soon they will approve the electronic strike zone. I invite you to talk about this, and I also learned a couple of days ago that you released a book about your career. And for me, it's an honor to talk with you, Mr. Scott. Thank you for joining me, and it's a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk with you and, get some exposure down in Venezuela. That's kind of exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. And we watched a few weeks ago that Kyle Schwarber makes a big protest for Angel Hernandez calls with balls and strikes. And also the recent episode between Madison Bumgarner and Dan Bellino. How difficult is to be an umpire right now in Major League Baseball?
Well, it's more difficult than when I broke in back in the big leagues in the mid '80s. Technology technology has advanced, obviously, and it seems to something new always seems to pop up. Every few weeks it seems like you can't outrun technology. So you try to embrace it and work it into the game where it can, and hopefully it's somewhat seamless. But technology has changed, and also social media. I mean, let's face it. When I started, social media has just come into the forefront here in the last 20 years. It used to be, if a fan was watching a game somewhere and he took exception to an umpire's call, or as far as that goes, to if he was mad about an error that a player made or whatever, it used to be he would voice that opinion, wherever he's watching the game, or maybe at work or something. Can't believe what happened. Now, instantaneously, you can say how you feel, put in your opinion, you and millions of other people, if they want to, all at the same time, all when it happens. I mean, umpires, when they walk off the field after a game, if they opened up social media, and let me say, first of all, most umpires, I know when I worked, I didn't have Facebook, I didn't have Twitter, I didn't have any of it. Okay, I just stayed away from it because, quite frankly, there's nothing good's going to come out of it for me. Rarely do people take the time to write in and say, hey, what a great game that guy had, or what a great call he had. But they all like to write in and say, man, he blew that call, or that was a horrible pitch, or whatever. So it's just the nature of the job. But anyway, so I was never on social media when I was working, for many reasons, not one of them. But in today's game, by the time an umpire crew walks off a field, there's could be possibly thousands of tweets about whatever transpired during that game. So it is a very much a different atmosphere and job nowadays than it was just 15, 20 years ago.
I follow some accounts like Umpire Auditors and some other accounts that constantly post some of the videos of the games and talk about the errors that umpires make. How difficult is to handle that?
Well, this is a job where you have to have a short memory. I mean, the nature of the job is that, every time you make a call, half the people are pissed off at you. Okay. So then Then 2 minutes later, 30 seconds later, 10 seconds later, you can make a call, and then that same half that was mad at you, they're happy now because because they're fans. They want stuff that goes in the favor of their teams. That's nothing new. What's new is the instantaneous conversation that can be nationwide, worldwide, over a pitch, a play, a situation. And like I said, the situation could be happening on the field, and already people are firing off tweets. I mean, it's such a different atmosphere for umpires. Now, that being said, what we do on the field, we don't think, oh gosh, I hope they don't, I hope this pitch doesn't get me on Twitter or something. You're not even thinking that. You're just trying to focus and make plays and call pitches and call plays and deal with situations. Most of the time, we get them right. Okay. But every once in a while, we may miss one. And, it's got another thing that's changed, quite frankly, and it's because of the technology. And it's because, having the instantaneous feedback from everybody has also helped this. But, fans now want umpires to be perfect. A missed pitch, or they perceive a missed pitch. Well, that's not acceptable. How do you miss that pitch? You can't miss this pitch. And we have a tendency as umpires to make the job look easy because we've been doing it a long time, and we're used to being out in crowds and that kind of stuff. The job's not easy. It's not easy at all. And calling pitches, of all the sports that all the sports officials in various sports, I could be one of the toughest things to do for a human to do. Now, some will say, well, if that's so tough, why don't we give it to the machines? Give it to the automated umpire. Well, that discussion is happening, and they're trying to get the technology to where it's much more consistently doing what they want to do. But anytime you open up the game to different rules or different, like when we had replay that was opened up and everything, you have unintended consequences and stuff that you just may not have thought of when you were incorporating something, and then suddenly you have this new system, and then something happens. You go, well, we didn't do this system for that. For example, right now you see a hitter hits a double, right? He slides into second. He's safe. There's no question he's safe. He beat the ball. But as he comes up on the to stand up on the base, he comes just a little bit off the base, just about this much, and the fielders now are keeping the tag on him the whole time. Well, suddenly their video guys say, hey, he was off the base. We go to replay, and there it is. I mean, by rule, if he's not in contact with the base with a live ball being tagged by a live ball, he's out. Okay. The replay was not put in to get those types of outs. That's a cheap out. Nobody thinks that's a good part of baseball and that we should be looking at that. But that's an unintended consequence of replay. Nobody anticipated that to be happening, but it happens quite frequently, actually, especially when they first started. So that's just an example of how something that you may not have even thought of or certainly didn't want can creep into a game because of a rule change or that kind of thing. So getting back, this is a long answer for you, but to get back to, when you have an automated strike zone, the theory is that no pitch will ever be missed. The strike zone will be perfect, and then we don't have to worry about that part of the game. I'm just here to tell you that was kind of the thought process for instant replay. They thought, well, hey, once we get instant replay, there will never be a missed call, and it'll be perfect, and the umpires won't affect the game at all. We've seen that doesn't happen. There are certain calls that you don't have the right camera angle, or you may have a player come into the camera's view right at the wrong time, and you don't see the play that you want to see. There was a play in Kansas City just recently where on one angle he looked like he slid off the bag, and on the other angle it looks like he was pushed off the bag. I mean, you could make an argument for either one of those calls depending on what angle you were looking at. So just because we've had replay doesn't make, there's no controversy and there's no problems. And it's going to be the same thing with the pitch tracking. Again, fans want umpires to be perfect. They do not want a pitch missed during a game. Okay, that's a lofty goal. It's one that we do all the time. We walk on the field all the time hoping that. But I'm just telling you right now, an automated strike zone is not going to get you there. There's going to be unintended consequences. There's going to be pitches that just aren't acceptable as strikes in the major leagues, but the machine will call it a strike because, by rule, it is. I mean, I know they're going to it. I know they're trying to get it out there. I always say, be careful what you ask for, because you might end up with something that you didn't want,
There also are some viral videos on the social media that some of that calls in the Atlantic League and in the minor leagues recently, that they are using the electronic strike zone and
right,
and the calls are not right.
The thing, Marcos, if the system was working, we would have it. Okay, if the system was to the point where it was major league caliber and would not miss pitches and would not call extreme pitches, the way it has, or just not, or just glitch. I mean, it is it's electronics, and sometimes electronics glitch, or whatever. You have to reboot. We all have to do that with our computer. So so there's obviously a lot of bugs, so to speak, in the system, and so it's not there yet. But trust me, they want to get that to the big league level. It's just not ready yet.
I also think that if they invest a lot of money, because I talked with the Atlantic League president, Rick White, and he told me that this technology that the MLB has spent a lot of money on it. I think that they will approve that. Sooner or later, they will approve that.
Oh yeah, well, they will. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. And we'll see what happens. I've got some other issues with it, though. I mean, as far as I haven't heard anybody talk about this. Let's say, Marcos, for example, you have runners at first and second, nobody out. Okay, it's a 3-2 pitch, so they send the runners on the pitch. Right, the pitch comes in. You have a plate umpire with an earpiece, waiting to hear, from upstairs where the ball or strike. Now, it doesn't take very long, but it's not instantaneous, or unless maybe it is. I mean, I don't know how it can be. There's got to be a slight delay than a normal umpire, a real umpire doing. And what does the catcher do? On ball 4, he doesn't want to throw it. Obviously, the runner's advance. But if it's strike 3, he wants to throw it down to third and maybe get a double play. Does he just throw it? And if you have that slight delay, as you know, those plays are the timing on that. You can't have a slight delay and expect to get anybody out. And you don't want to just throw it and find out later, because if it is ball 4 and he makes a bad throw or something, now he didn't need to throw it. Now it's in left field and run scores. And I mean, there's all these things that I don't know how this is all going to work out because of the way the system is set up. That little delay. So there's questions I have just in the basic nuts and bolts of umpiring with the system that I'm not sure how that's going to work. So we'll see, I guess.
Do you think that the improvement of the instant replay for almost every play in Major League Baseball affect the reason that every fan or every one of us are expecting that the umpires be perfect in the game? I think I'm not wrong on this. The only thing that is a human element right now in MLB, it's the ball on strike.
Right. Well, here's where in a abstract way, they've always wanted, officials in general, but they always want umpires to get pitches plays right, just as we do every time we go out there. We don't go out there going, I'm gonna miss 7 pitches today. I mean, that's not the mentality you have. But one of the things that has, but also in the past, before this technology and everything, fans understood. They may not liked it. They may have it may have gone against their team, but they understand that there's a margin of error, within calling pitches. And like I said, calling pitches is not easy. You have a 3-dimensional strike zone where the height and the high low of it changes every hitter, and can change every pitch. Because if he squares, that's a different high low strike zone than if he's hitting away. So you have to judge that. Now, granted, the plate is it doesn't move. It's 17 inches, but you got to remember the diameter of a baseball is almost 3 inches. And if any part of the ball goes over any part of the plate within the, high-low zone of the hitter, that by rules is strike. So in other words, the very edge of the ball can be hitting the very edge of the plate. That basically extends that plate another 3 inches on each side, not quite 3 inches, but that makes a 17-inch plate all of a sudden a 23-inch plate. So there's a lot of variables that a umpire has to do, and the zone is 3-dimensional. It starts at the front edge of the home plate, and it ends at the back point. What I'm trying to say is, you have to take all that in consideration. And by the way, the pitch is coming in at 95 miles an hour, or it's late movement and that kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, the background behind the pitcher, there's a sun hitting it, there's a shadow, and all this stuff can affect how you see the ball, right? So yes, there's a margin of error in there that an umpire has, and people may not have liked it. It may have not helped their team, and it makes them upset. But there's a lot of times it helps their team too. Now, what happened with technology? They put this facsimile of a strike zone on the monitor. When you're watching a game, you see a quote unquote strike zone on the screen. To everyone at home seeing that's the strike zone. That's that's gospel to them. If an umpire calls a pitch just off the edge of that box on your screen, and he calls it a strike, they say, well, he missed that. That's obviously outside. Do you know what obviously is? if that is accurate, we're talking about maybe this far off, a quarter of an inch, whatever. That's not obvious. That is a close pitch that, quite frankly, is pretty much acceptable at a major league level. As long as it's consistent, whatever. Now, granted, if it's half an inch, a full inch off the plate, that should not be called a strike. But when they put that on the screen, now fans have a unrealistic, first of all, unrealistic view and thought process of what the strike zone is, and second of all, because they see it in real time, and when it happens, they don't tolerate a missed pitch. And so what used to be kind of a built-in kind of buffer for a fan to a point has gone. There's no buffer anymore. It's the on-screen thing. And I think if I could do one thing right now, I would take that thing, and nobody could put that strike zone onto the screen. You just can't do it, because it gives a unrealistic and certainly not just a real, what a real strike zone is. And the reason I say that, I don't know what their criteria for that. I don't know what they're counting on that. I never see that on-screen strike zone change height. Never. Yeah. A judge comes up, and then Altuve, I think they've got different strikes.
I will ask you about that, because I heard you when you talk with that with Bob Bosser, and you mentioned that it can be the same strike zone for Judge and for Altuve.
Well, I just don't know I don't know the technology. I don't know how they're coming up with their zone. So I don't know how it's calibrated or any of that. So, I have questions about that. But again, it's reality to the fans. Whatever that box is, if it's in the box, it's a strike. If it touches any part of the box, it's a strike. And if it doesn't, it's a ball. And you can't convince anybody anything different, quite frankly, because they see that. If I could change one thing in baseball, if I was commissioner for a day, that thing would go. We would not have that thing, because you didn't have. You always had. Everybody has their own judgment, and you've always had arguments or disagreements on certain pitches. That's from the first game ever played. But you never had it to where there was some type of quote unquote zone. We don't know how it's made or whatever, but there's a zone, and now all of a sudden you can have this a false sense that any that it's 100% accurate, and anything that's off it is the umpire's fault. I just it's not fair. I understand you don't necessarily need to be fair with officials, because that's what we do, but it's caused a lot. It really has caused a lot of problems with how they perceive strike work, ball strike work by and play work by umpires going on now. And it's too bad.
Do you think that right now the players are complaining more about the strike zone, or it always happened, but in today's world with the social media, it seems like it's a lot of more noise than before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If a Minnesota Twin was called out on strikes with the bases loaded in the ninth inning and they lose the game, where did that information go to? They went to the newspaper in Minnesota. We went out on the wires or whatever. That's not everybody reads the newspaper. Not everybody got the whatever. Now now you could just sit on the couch, and when it happens, you just turn on Twitter or whatever, and it's right now that people are telling you, and they got absolutely there's more chatter, more noise over stuff. People have always complained about calls. Especially big calls and big games and all that stuff. But you didn't have the speed and the viewership that you have now. And it's not just it's not just the big games. Now a team that's not doing very well still has their games on TV. They still have their passionate fans or whatever. So it's just. And one thing I noticed, Marcos, and I've noticed this way before technology and all this, it's really funny. An umpire can call a great game or make a spectacular call in a tough situation on a catch, no catch or something, and it's just expected. That's their job. That's what they should do. They miss something that might be an unbelievably tough call, and they miss it. Well, that's terrible. He's got to get that play right. You never hear thousands of people saying, "Gosh, what a great game he called." That was thrilling to see. That was a tough situation, and he took care of it. But man, they'll jump on it when they think it's a mistake, especially against their own team. The other thing that I've always noticed for years, and again, this is because people are fans, they always remember plays and pitches that go against them. They never remember the ones that go in their favor. They never think, we got that one call that one time, so we were kind of lucky. That rarely comes up. It's always the ones that they think they were cheated on. So again, nature of the sport, nature of the job, but it can be frustrating at times.
Do you think that umpires right now have more pressure on their jobs than before, because everything that we are talking about in this podcast? I truly don't understand yet what happened between Dan Bellino and Madison Bumgarner, but I think that maybe the pressure on the umpires right now, it's very high.
Well, yeah, there's always been pressure on umpire. There's pressure on any type of job where you're supposed to be perfect and then improve. That's the nature of the job. But again, yeah, there is, because there's more eyeballs on it. There's more, there's more discussion about things, about stuff. It used to be, if you had a couple teams that aren't playing very well and they're not they're running for playoffs or whatever, and an umpire misses a play at the plate or something, yeah, there's they'll show a highlight or whatever. But now everybody sees it on Twitter and they and this we're never going to outrun technology. It's here, so it's not like we're going to be able to corral that in. That's there, that's happening. What we can corral in again is that on-screen pitch track system that we don't know how it works, okay. You had mentioned the Bellino incident. I'll be honest with you, I have no clue what happened there. I don't know what was said. I don't know if Madison had said something during that inning, or if I just don't. A lot of times people just jump to a conclusion, and it looked bad. It did not look good. And Bellino apologized for his actions. And I think that was appropriate for, just to try to make this go away and let's move forward. But, and he was fine, trust me, he was disciplined. But, it, sometimes you'll see something happen out there as a fan and go, oh my God, why did the umpire do that? He hardly said anything. Well, we have no idea what he said, but I'm not talking about this incident. I'm just talking about in general. I've had, when I was working, I remember a couple times, a pitch call, I call it a strike, and the hitter would look back and, kind of say something and shake his head. And after the game, friends will say, hey, so-and-so, did he say something on that pitch? Or I'll be watching the replay and the announcers go, oh, he didn't like that pitch. Look at, he's saying something to Dale Scott. I've had him say, man, that was a good pitch. I should have hit it 500 feet. So he wasn't complaining at all. Right. But everybody just assumes that he is, so you don't know what's happening on the field. You can guess, you can have theories, but you really don't know what's said. And what other actions might have happened to lead up to this. Now, maybe there weren't any. Maybe it just Dan was having a difficult day, and he, maybe did something he probably shouldn't have done, and he apologized for it. But again, when I see something, and it's not just baseball. When I'm watching other sports and you see something going on, I always think, okay, what, I wonder what led up to that. I wonder what was said there. I wonder, sometimes once you find out, if you find out exactly what led up to it, then it puts a whole new different light on it, So again, in this information era that we're in, we're getting information constantly, immediately, in real time. It's just a lot easier to, instead of waiting to find out an explanation or find out whatever, we're just gonna say, I'm just gonna tweet that umpire is an idiot and I hate him, So it's like, without any, whether you're guilty without a trial or anything. I don't know. It's just yes, it is tough for this to umpire and to officiate any sport because of social media and technology. Now technology can help also. I mean, but it also can, it can also unfairly maybe paint a picture that's not necessarily correct.
It's tougher to be a home play umpire right now than before, because pitchers are throwing harder than before, and they are also had a lot of movement on their pitches.
Yeah, I mean, through the years, there's always been some guys that are just really really good, they're the heat, or they can put a lot of movement on the ball and everything. And that's part of what I had talked about earlier is a three-dimensional strike zone with the way these pitchers are outstanding pitchers, and they can make the ball move right at the, can fall off the table or right when it's in the zone area or coming into the zone area. I mean, they're good. And the hitters' eyes are good. I mean, the hitters for the most part have really dissected the zone the way that the way it's been set up, and they they have a pretty good eye. They're not right all the time, but they got a pretty good eye. So you've always had good pitchers, but yeah, I hate to keep harping on the same thing, but technology. Well, look how the game's played now. Analytics, that's all. That's technology. You get that information from technology.
Yeah.
And it's completely changed the game. And not necessarily just baseball, although baseball's big. If you follow American football much, a lot of teams were going for 2 points after touchdowns, because the numbers, the analytics said that's a smarter, it's a higher percentage play or whatever. They never used to do that. Unless they needed those two at the end of a game or something. So it's changed the way strategies and everything. I think a lot of it for the good. It's but some of it maybe not so much. I still don't understand when you have a shift on a guy and he's constantly hitting into the shift. They'll stop shifting if you just laid out a bunt over here, or if you get a punch a couple the other way. I know it's easier said than done, but it almost seems like they don't even try. They're just trying to beat the shift. And I'm not sure that's been real successful, because it seems like the shift is really clamped down on some hitters. Of course, that's going to be, I think, going to be banned next year, or at least, addressed for sure. So, analytics and all that stuff, that's all technology. So technology is got its fingers and it's choking this game sometimes, again, for the good, and it makes, I think, helps. But sometimes I think it's changed into a kind of a different game, and maybe not one quite as exciting. I mean, how many times you see steal plays? You just don't steal. I mean, when I first came up and in the mid 80s and into the 90s, I mean, we had base stealers. Every team had at least one that, was, a threat to run, and some had a couple. You always had to be on yourself, for stealing bases. But analytics say that's not a smart play, and so you just don't see it. And, it's changed the game. I don't know if it's changed it for the better, quite frankly.
We mentioned before some things that make the umpire works hard, like the strike zone, the pitch velocity, the spin of the pitch. But we are forgetting about one thing, the framing. Right now, catchers are framing maybe more than ever. That also makes the umpire's job very difficult, right?
I'll be honest with you, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I think framing is overblown. Okay, I think that maybe some in the media and others have put too much emphasis on framing, like it's this magical way of stealing pitches and kind of stuff. The best catcher I ever worked behind in my career was when I first started for a few years. Bob Boone was catching. Boone what I call it catch, or it's called a catcher or catching. I call it receiving. He received the ball really well. And there's some guys that they just massage. Again, my terminology, they massage the pitch really well. So they took that real borderline outside pitch, and they, the framing. Some of these guys are taking this and just, they're moving it, catch move. Like, oh, I didn't see him move the glove. My goodness, that must have been a good, I think it's a little ridiculous that they think they're going to get strikes on. Now, if you receive the ball, I'm not talking about framing. I'm talking about receiving the ball, and it's almost like you're massaging the ball. It's just a very smooth, almost looking effortless receiving of the ball, but those borderline pitches, ones that, is it on the knee or is it a little bit low? Is it on the outside, or is it right on the plate? And the way they receive it, they're going to get maybe some pitches that are a little bit outside, called strikes, because they receive it well. The guys that frame it and try to take everything back in, if it's up here and down, everything kind of back toward the plate in some way. I think it's just overblown. I just think it's not that deceiving to guys that have been back there that have seen hundreds of thousands of pitches through their career. So I know that that's a real hot topic. I do agree, and maybe it's just terminology that we're debating here, but I do agree a good receiver is somebody a pitcher is going to want, because a good receiver is going to pick up a few pitches during the course of a game. But a framer rarely, in my experience, is going to be able to do that. They're not the same smoothness and the same almost art of deception that a good receiver has.
I talked with Mr. Jim Joyce last year when the perfect game,
the Umpire Nightmare,
the 10th anniversary of that game, and I also talked with Armando Galarraga. I think it's a spectacular history, and we learned a lot of things on this history. So, how much impact that game had for other umpires?
That's that scenario. If you would say, hey, you know what's going to happen? There's going to be a perfect game, and on the 27th out, the pitcher who's throwing the perfect game is going to cover, and the umpire is going to miss the call. And it's like you want to describe to me an umpire hell. That's it right there. It's an umpire nightmare. And I joked when that happened. I said, there's no producer in Hollywood. If they were handed that script, they would have said, this will never happen. The odds of this happening are so remote. I'm not going to make a movie about that. Well, guess what? It happened. And I was in Seattle when it happened. So I was a couple, 3 time zones behind. So I was just getting to the ballpark. I didn't see it when it happened, but I got into our umpire room like right afterwards. And so was, seeing the replay and everything. And right when I saw it the first time, I went, oh no, oh no, Jimmy's a good friend of mine. He only lives like 10 miles from me. But it could have been me. It could have been any one of us. I mean, it's part of the deal when you sign up for this job is sometimes you have bad days, and I mean, you could get 100 plays right, and then you miss that one. And it's just, everything implodes. I gotta say, Jimmy handled it unbelievably well. Galarraga, 100%. Oh yeah, it was Galarraga, right?
Yeah.
Was a fantastic the way he dealt with the whole situation. Jim Leland and the Tigers also dealt with it in a very professional, very just in a great way. There's some clubs I don't think that would have happened if it had gone against them. Okay, I don't think that the professionalism would have shown through with some clubs. Just trust me on that. And then I'm not glad it happened to Jim, but I'm glad it happened to a senior umpire that is an established umpire that people know is he's a good umpire. People respect Jimmy Joyce, players, managers, coaches, fans. And if that had happened to a young umpire that's just trying to get established in the league, or that could ruin your career. I mean, a play like that could ruin your career because it would just eat away or could just eat away at an umpire's confidence where he just it affected into a young guy. So I'm not glad it happened to Jimmy, but I'm grateful it happened to a well-respected senior umpire, just because he can handle it better, and you wouldn't have the miserable some of the miserable coverage you get from some of the media, but it could have been me, it could have been anybody, and I just felt so bad for Jimmy. I just felt so bad for him. But he's a professional too, and he rebounded. He worked the plate the next day, and he fielded all the questions again, and and he gets asked that all the time. Still now, he gets asked that. So about that play and about that situation. So hats off to him.
Do you talk with him after that? After you worked that day?
Well, I texted him and just said, "Hey, Jimmy, we're all with you. We got your back." And that. I didn't actually call him for a few days because I knew that he was just getting bombarded. But I texted him, and he knew if he needed to reach out, I was there. So, but I also know when you're in that whirlwind, you don't necessarily you appreciate the calls and the support, but sometimes. Not right now because you got so much that you're trying to wade through, but I mean, I don't know the stats. I didn't, but I would be shocked if the whole staff or 95% of the staff didn't text Jimmy at least and say, hang in there, buddy, because we know, like I said, we know that could have been us, one thing about sports officials in general, but umpires, we're a fraternity. We're a close-knit bunch. My brothers in blue, we understand what it's like to be out there. We understand what it's like to make a mistake. We understand what it's like to be unfairly criticized, all that stuff. And so you have a tendency to have that bunker mentality a little bit. When things are going bad, we got your back, and we're gonna be there for you. But there are times, Marcos, where you have 3 teams, the two baseball teams, and then the umpire crew. And there are times that you walk on the field and things happen that you feel like it's just you 4 guys against the world, right? Everybody wants to just, and you gotta stay with your crew. I mean, not a lot of battles are won when everybody splits. So you You got to stay with your crew. So yeah, so we rallied behind Jimmy, just like we would rally behind any other umpire that got into some kind of a tough situation.
Do you think that the replay system took out some pressure from the umpires because they could be corrected?
Well, I've heard the theory that what do those guys care? They can just call anything because they'll be corrected if they're wrong. Well, then people that say that obviously have never umpired and they don't know any umpires. We never want to miss a pitch. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many ways I can say it. You hear the criticism like, well, they don't care because when the game's over, they don't care if they win or lose. They just go out and do whatever they want to do, and they come back the next day. They don't care. No, we care a lot. We care a lot. We're our own worst critic. When I miss a play or if I missed a key pitch, it would eat away at me because, and I would try to make it into a positive for me. By saying what I mean by that is, if I missed a steal play, I'm going to watch the video, and I'm going to say, where was my positioning? Did I get it set too late? Was I moving it? Was my angle off? Did I not pick up the ball? There's this checklist as an umpire that I'm going to go down to try to figure out why I missed it, so I can correct it going forward. But once you've done the checklist and once you've kind of figured out what happened or whatever, you got to move on. It's easier said than done. You think about it, but I got another game. I got another big play. I've got another. You don't let a mistake on a play on a game on Monday help make you miss 2 or 3 more mistakes on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let that mistake only be one mistake and not the genesis of 2 or 3 more because you're thinking about it, right? It's just like a shortstop, bases loaded, 1 out, ground ball right to. It's a double play. That's all right. We're out of the inning, and it goes right between his legs. And so he can't sit and dwell on that, although he's going to probably, but because the next one might come right at him. And that same scenario is one that I like to point out about replay and about having umpires. Everything has to be perfect with umpires in a game that's not perfect. That's not play. Humans play it, and it's not perfect. If umpires have to be perfect, well, what do you say about that same play? The ball goes through. It should have been a double play, and I go to replay and I go, well, after further review, he usually makes that play, so we're going to give him a double play. And of course, we're not going to do that, right? That's everything stupid, right? But it's a different animal. But anyway, there's an umpire has to. I said earlier in this show that an umpire has to have a short memory. You deal with the mistake if you haven't. You deal with it. Try to figure out why it happened. Now it's time to move on and not dwell on it because you've got a bunch of other plays coming up.
What do you think that is the best way to handle the strike zone situation? I think that Major League Baseball will approve the electronic strike zone because
right.
what we talked earlier in this podcast. But what do you think is the best way to handle it?
Well, I've been talking about a challenge system. The reason here's where I think it should be at least discussed and at least talked about. And again, like I said earlier, the timing on steal plays or pickoffs, if a catcher's trying to pick somebody off or something, is not natural when you have a robotic who that is telling the umpire that's on the field and behind the catcher after every pitch what the pitch is. It's not instantaneous. The timing's just it's impossible not to have even if it's just a little moment, but not your normal timing. I don't know how you get over that. I don't know how a catcher says, oh, okay, I don't know what this pitch is. If it's one pitch, if it's a strike, I'm gonna throw it. But if it's a ball, I'm not. But I'm not. I have a half a second before how do you? The timing just doesn't work. You want the game to be pure or whatever. That's not pure. That's altering the game. So let me get back to my theory. Well, the other thing is that, again, isn't mentioned, but you're asking a lot. You have a plate umpire, a physical, man with just like we have now, the gear. Well, it could be a woman too, but with the gear on and everything, and every pitch that person is going down and judging the pitch, because if there's a glitch in the system, let's say, and it's electronics, things glitch. If for some reason it didn't track that pitch, then the plate umpire that's there has to call it. Well, imagine this. You're a plate umpire that has to focus like you're calling the game, just like you do now, on every single pitch, never having to call one, except you might have to call one and you'll never know when it is. And it could be right in the middle of a rally, or right at the end of a game. There's at any time you may have to call strike. That's not easy to do, to make a guy go out there, because you could go 4, 5, 6, 7 innings, have nothing, and a bunch of pitches. You never have to call one. And then all of a sudden, boom, you got to call one right now. It's a 2-2 pitch. It was a strike. We want to strike out. What was that? And that's just stuff to do. So again, my theory is this, or something I think that we should be discussed and talked about and figure out if it's viable. Let umpires call the game like they do now. Have a plate umpire, but you have a system like you do now that evaluates the umpires, but is also there for challenges. So you give each manager 2 challenges, first through 6th inning, and then the 7th, 8th, and 9th. One an inning, or maybe 2 for those 3 innings. I don't know. Whatever works out. But that way, the timing of the game stays the way it is. The flow of the game stays the way it is, as far as pitchers and catchers and hitters and throwing, you don't have that little glitch of trying to throw a guy out or whatever. But, and you have a plate umpire that doesn't have to focus on every pitch, never calling one, and then having to call one God knows when, so that's all eliminated. What it will do now that 2-2 pitch, in the 8th inning with a tying run on or something, and the umpire called strike 3, and the manager said, no, I think that was out of the zone. I'm going to challenge. Look at it, come up with, if it's upheld, strike 3, but if not, it's a ball. Now I can immediately hear the critics, oh my God, another delay. We got to go to the replay, another delay. Why are we delaying the game? Okay. I don't buy that for one minute. First of all, most of the people that have bitched about replay taking too long are the same people that demanded we had replay. The same one. And if you remember, before replay, we had this little thing called arguments, right? That took time.
Yeah,
they were entertaining, but it took time. So I'm not the other thing too. You got to understand when there is a replay. You can't. I mean, we've actually gotten much quicker at figuring this stuff out. Because we've gotten used to it. We know what we're doing, and the technicians know what they're doing, all that stuff. But you can't be too quick, because early in the replay system, there was a couple times where the replay umpire said, "Yeah, he's out," and then 20 seconds later came a feed that they hadn't seen yet, and it showed he was obviously safe or something, and now they get buried. Why do we have replay if you can't even get that right? Well, the reason they got buried is they rushed it because people are saying it's taking too long. So you're gonna, just lay off. If you want replay, that's replay. And if you don't want replay, I understand. Now, getting back to my thing. So you have the challenges on the pitches. So that way, you still have managers using strategy. Am I going to use my challenge on that pitch, or should I wait? I mean, that would be a new strategy, a new thing that a manager's going to have to deal with, just like challenging a replay now. And then you still have the flow of the game, and you still have the timing of the game, and you still have an umpire that's doing something and not acting like he's doing something, and then all of a sudden he has to do something, and that kind of stuff. I don't know if it would work. I don't know if you reach, if they look into it. I don't know if there's some unintended consequences that it just wouldn't work. I don't know, but I think it's something that should at least be one of the options they look at, because I think it just on the surface, the upside seems to be worth it to look into it. So, well, we'll see. But that's kind of my theory.
There is another problem because the main concern of the system is when the system works with Wi-Fi, I think,
Right.
And the connection is lost. So the umpire need to be focused on the game also because they will need to call the strike in the human way. So
right, but that's I'm telling you that is so hard to do when you may have 3 plate games where there's no glitch and you don't call one pitch, and then all of a sudden the 8th inning of a game you have to. I mean, again, for someone that's never focused for calling major league pitching, it's not something you can just kind of half-ass do. You've got to focus, and there's nothing worse than focusing on something over and over and over again and having no responsibility, but they never call on you ever. After a while, it's just natural to go, I'm not gonna, you watch the pitch because you're not getting asked. You never know what's going to happen. That's almost torture for an umpire, I'm telling you. And so I think that's a big ask, because when it does come to him all of a sudden out of the blue, like I said, it's that 3-2 pitch with runners running it's a huge pitch, and that's just not fair to that umpire. It hasn't called a pitch all game, and all of a sudden, so again, I be careful what you ask for, man. The strike, the robotic strike, whatever you call it, is in theory, oh yes, we'll never miss a pitch, but there's a lot of things that go into it, and I, is it making the game better? I don't know. I mean, I'm just not sure if it is.
Talking about your book, I know that you will release it very soon.
It's out. Yeah, it's out now.
It's out. Okay.
Yeah.
I figured out a couple of days ago how is the experience to write that book, and
working 37 years in professional baseball, 32 of them in the major leagues. I've got some stories. I've seen some things. Basically, it's just a memoir of me, how I got into umpiring. There's some minor league stories that are kind of entertaining and that kind of stuff. And then there's my personal story. In 2014, I was the first active male official in the Big Five sports to come out as gay, and that was something that I actively tried to hide for years, and was terrified that anybody would find out. When I was in the minor leagues, I thought, for sure I would never move up if they knew I was gay. But also my career in baseball, my first game in the minor leagues, my first game in the Northwest League in 1981 was literally 2 weeks after a strange cancer was affecting young men in New York and San Francisco. They didn't know what it was at first. So, what's causing this? Well, of course, it was the AIDS epidemic that was starting. So my career paralleled the AIDS epidemic, which in the 80s, for a while, they didn't know how it was spread. They were afraid of, if you touch the same towel or doorknob or whatever, you might get it. There was a lot of paranoia. So can you imagine? Not only if they found I was gay, not only I thought, well, the chance of me getting promoted was almost nil at that time in the atmosphere of them. But now I would have guys who would refuse to work with me, to share a hotel room and be in the same locker room. I mean, I was very motivated not to have anybody find out about my sexuality, because quite frankly, the career would be over before it started. So I did lead a double life. And so the book talks about that and talks about how I kind of maneuvered through that. And then came full circle that I went from actively trying to hide it to actually coming out publicly and announcing it. So it's gotten a lot of good feedback so far. I had a lot of fun writing it. It was new to me. I've never written a book, but I got help from Rob Nyer, a sport or a baseball writer for years, and helped me out. And I hope if people get a chance to read it, I think they'll enjoy it. I know baseball fans, if nothing else, are going to love some of the stories. I was the last umpire to eject Billy Martin back in 1988. It was my third year, and it wasn't even my call. I had some run-ins with some pretty unbelievable names, So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did you say you got the book?
No, I didn't. I didn't get, but I.
Yeah. Well, if you did, I hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know.
Okay.
What you think after you read it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
How much that decision in 2014 changed your life?
Well, it wasn't like, I mean, I was out to my family, I was out to my friends. It wasn't like I was closeted, uh, gay man, but I was closeted in my baseball world. But after, like I was talking about, but after, first of all, society changed quite a bit, baby steps sometimes, but it was changing. And just the attitudes about homosexuality. And then, Michael, my husband now, but we've been together since after my first year in the big leagues. This fall will be 36 years. We legally got married when we finally could in 2013, and I came out the next year, and I just thought, at this point in my career, I'd been in the big leagues 28 years. I'd had 3 World Series. I'm crew chief. I mean, obviously, and by the way, the league at that time by then knew, and all my umpire partners knew. So it wasn't an issue, or they wouldn't have been giving me the playoffs, practically every year or whatever. But the media didn't know, the fans didn't know, the teams didn't know. But I thought it was a little hypocritical for me to, be with Michael, to be legally married. I mean, it was legal to be married, so why am I hiding this?
Yeah.
It just, and so that's why I came out, and the response was unbelievably positive, because you never really know what it's going to be like. But it was unbelievably positive. So that's, I talk about that in the book also. So it's a fun, fun stories. It's an interesting read. And I just hope people enjoy it.
Do you think that baseball also changed the mind on that way, because Bob Selig hired Billy Bean to be the person to talk about the inclusion in Major League Baseball?
Right. He wrote the foreword in the book, but they hired Billy early in 2014, and I came out late in 2014. But that was a big step by baseball. I mean, no major sport had done that. No, it had a person specifically for inclusion issues and not just homosexuality, but other things. But that's a big step by baseball. But it really showed, and again, that was when I say baseball, professional. But the commissioner's office is not only the big leagues but the minor leagues, and it showed that everybody's welcome here. If you can play the game, it doesn't matter. Your sexuality doesn't matter. Now that's easier said than done sometimes. But when a league like that, the cloud of Major League Baseball, makes a statement like that and hires somebody and says, "This is what we're doing," it not only talks to the other big sports leagues that this is the right thing to do, but it really gave me confidence. They knew I was gay by that point, but it did help give me confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to come out and just publicly and do it all, because they were showing they had my back, right? So I'm going to have theirs. So I think that was a great hire by baseball and a huge turning point.
Do you think that when you came out, it was very good received by the clubs?
I came out in December of 2014, so there were no games going on. The first games were in March. That 2015 season, for the entire season, I had 3 players, 1 base coach, and 1 trainer say anything to me. That was it. And 2 of the players was the very first spring training game I had. When I was being interviewed in December, when I came out, one of the questions I kept getting, well, what do you think when games start, the reaction is going to be by the players, managers, and everything? I said, I'll be honest with you, I don't know, but I'll be honest with you, I think they're much more concerned about me getting pitches and plays right than about what I do when I leave the ballpark. So and that's exactly how it played out. It was basically business as usual. And that was actually refreshing to see too, because another thing I said in those interviews, I said, one day this is not going to be a story. It's just going to be, oh yeah, that's Dale Scott. Oh, he's gay. Not the gay umpire Dale Scott, but Dale Scott. Oh, by the way, he's gay. It's just not going to be a big deal. But we're not there yet. And baseball's not there from the standpoint we still have not had a major league player while active come out. And I'm kind of surprised by that, to be honest. American football's had it, soccer, has had it, basketball, hockey, but baseball still hasn't.
Why do you think that happened? It's maybe fear, because as you say, society has changed a lot about
that's what it was for years and years. But I mean, you see story after story. Outsports.com has these stories of college players, of others, other sports and whatever. The support they get, and a lot of teammates are saying, "Why didn't you tell me, man? I would have had your back." Or that type of stuff. The younger generation. I'm not sure how old you are. Well, 86. You'll be
35.
yeah. But and really, it's kind of like 35 on down. In generalization. But I talked to my nephews, and they're in their early 20s or whatever, and they said, "Why? What's the big deal about gay marriage? Who cares? I mean, you married somebody." I mean, they didn't understand why there would be all these ballot measures and states, this and that. They go, to them, they just it just is, they went to school with a couple of gay kids here and a couple of gay. It's just not that big a deal. I mean, you always have a segment that it's not going to be accepted, but that segment is much smaller than it was just 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I think, there was a lot of fear and a lot of the reaction would be, if a player did, but that's really subsided a lot now. And I think the gay marriage has really helped put that into place, because when that debate was going on, the vast amount of people they didn't, it didn't really affect them. They didn't care. Yet you had on the right, the people are absolutely against anything gay. And you had the people on the left that said, "Hey, we want rights too." But a lot of people just go, "Yeah, gay marriage, whatever. I don't know." I mean, they just really, whatever. And then when they saw that the sky wasn't falling, when the marriages started, and because the right was always saying, "Well, if this happens, and then that's it, the sanctity of marriage is off, and this and that," and none of that happened. None of that happened. And so I think a lot of the people that didn't really have a dog in the hunt, so to speak, they just said, what's the big deal? So they're gay. Who cares? Who cares? How does him being gay affect me? I mean, it's just. I mean, I know I look at it differently, but it is interesting to. There will be a player. I don't know if it'll be a player that was out in the minor leagues and makes it to the big leagues, or if it's a player that's in the big leagues that comes out. But there will be one.
Where we can find the book?
Amazon. I mean, you guys. I don't know what you get in Venezuela, but you can order like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, on online, and I don't know, maybe other outlets too. I'm not sure, but I know those can ship it right to you, and I hope, like I said, I just hope people that do get it, they enjoy it. I wrote it to entertain and to get a few laughs and to maybe educate a little bit too. So
it's available on Kindle.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Scott, for this interview, and for answering my question. I hope that you enjoyed this time.
Well, that's all right, Mars. Thank you. I appreciate the chance to speak with you and the chance to talk about the book a little bit. So I appreciate that.